Hello, this is Mark Smith with Family Tree Counseling Associates in Carmel, Indiana. And I'm going to be speaking with you today about a fun topic, at least a fun quote. The quote is, "It's not my circus, they're not my monkeys." And it's about recovery from rescuing. I've been doing a lot of Skype sessions lately with clients from around the world and around the country. And one of the really fun things about that is you get to know different cultures, different accents, different ways of thinking, and occasionally a really interesting quote. In talking with a Polish client who actually lives in a different country now, she had mentioned, in terms of her pattern of being codependent and rescuing in an unhealthy relationship, she blurted out one day, "Not my circus, not my monkeys." I was like, what? I'd never heard recovery from rescuing described so humorously and so elegantly. Beautiful. So I'm going to talk about rescuing. Rescuing can suck the very life out of you. It is being way too unselfish. It is caretaking. Rescuing, unfortunately, can ruin and stunt your potential as a human being. It can keep you from going to college. It can keep you from having children. It can ruin you financially. It can ruin your health. It can keep you from being the best that you can be or coming anywhere close to it. One of my definitions of rescuing is being with the wrong people for the wrong reasons at the wrong time and in the wrong place. You're just not connected to who you are, and you're living somebody else's life. The roots of rescuing is having the need to help or heal or save the world due to the fact that you yourself have an inner child that's never been healed, that's never been loved, and you've never cried through the not getting your own needs met as a child because you're Superman, you're Superwoman, and you don't think you have any woundedness. But then when you see woundedness and underfunctioning and ball dropping in the pattern of people that you care about, it's a compulsive need to overfunction and to kiss their boo-boos and to pick up their balls. And it's due to your own woundedness. The foundation of many unhealthy romantic relationships is rescuing. I think rescuing has gotten almost as many people together as sex has. The proverbial white knight riding in to slay the dragon and save the damsel in distress. Well, many years later, the damsel in distress discovers that the white knight is a dragon. So rescuing it's robbing from yourself. You heard of the old saying, robbing Peter to pay Paul. Well, this is robbing from yourself to save the world, which ultimately doesn't really do the world a lot of good. Ironically, rescuing just makes things worse, ultimately, for the rescued and the enabled, because they continue to underfunction. Rescuing is epidemic. It can take you away from your own emptiness, your own pain, your own sadness, and it can get you high. But you aren't going to get your name in the paper in a bad way for rescuing. You're going to get your name in the paper for being the volunteer of the year, the United Way worker of the year, the Mother Teresa type of person that everybody respects and they really think you have your stuff together. But in fact, your rescuing addiction, it might as well be cocaine, because it is damaging your life and damaging your potential and damaging the people around you. It really is a highly destructive addiction, and it causes people around you to also spiral out of control. It's like you have a need to be needed. I've asked many rescuers, what are your needs? And they say, well, I have a need to be needed. And I said, well, that's not a need. It doesn't come from the wounded little kid on the inside. All the things that I'm saying sound pretty big and pretty substantial, but for all those things, for the most part, rescuing is unnamed, untreated, and all but invisible. When I think of rescuing, I think of a client that I had many years ago, and she grew up in an alcoholic family and grew up really too quick, and she lived to serve and lived to give, and every Christmas, all year long, she would be saving money, spending money, buying gifts, and every Christmas she would dispense just thousands and thousands of dollars of gifts, and didn't really get much in return. She got married, and everything centered around this husband. One thing that we'll call her Trina. One thing that Trina wanted was to have children, but it just never was the right time for her husband. And then Trina had some health problems, and then they had marital problems, and then the marriage blew up. And next thing you know, she's 47. And you would just say the word babies, and Trina would just begin to weep and cry and grieve in just a really overwhelmingly sad way. Her rescuing her husband kept her from having her own children. And her giving and giving and giving to her husband and family members kept her from being financially secure, even though she worked really hard and rarely spent money on herself. To illustrate this concept of rescuing, a rescuing not unlike Trina was on vacation out in California, and she rented a very, I guess in the blog it's sort of a purple car. Let's say she rented a purple sedan, a antique. So I have a blog of a similar name as this one, Not My Monkeys, Not My Circus. And she's on vacation, and she's tooling up Route 1 in California along the coastline, overlooking the Pacific Ocean, overlooking the rocks and the cliffs. And she's so excited to be there. This is the first thing she's done for herself in many years. And she begins to speed and listen to music. So you know she's up to 90 miles an hour. She loses control of her purple jalopy, and she's going over the cliff and plunging to her death. And in those split seconds before she dies, somebody else's life flashes before her, because she hasn't been living her life. Her whole life has been about sacrificing and about living for other people. So let's talk about recovery. Recovery for rescuing means not having the whole world be your circus and not having everybody's problems be your monkeys. Recovery means getting in touch with your own needs and your own feelings. And it means healing your buried childhood wounds. It means learning how to become selfish in a healthy, appropriate manner. You have to get enough sleep. You have to have enough fun. You have to save enough money for your retirement. You have to take care of you. That's your job, to take care of you. And if you are resonating with this video and you are a rescuer, then you really need some therapy to have your particular brand of rescuing clearly and powerfully named, so that you can know the difference between something that is healthy and appropriate and something that really is holding you back and weighing you down. I've worked with a lot of rescuing women through the years, and what sticks out is they're old. Even when they're in their 20s, they're old of spirit, because very frequently they help to raise their siblings, and then they've picked one man-child after another. And he was immature either due to alcoholism, drug addiction, depression, mental illness, sexual addiction, or just downright laziness and self-centeredness. But she's raising little boys along the way and never could find a real man who would be responsible and do his own work. And that wears a girl down. And these gals are old and tired in their 20s, but when they get to their 50s, they're really sad, and they really have heavy, dark spirits. So recovery is about taking your life back. It's about discovering yourself and just being, rather than doing for others constantly. And it's high time that you do spend time and energy and resources attending to yourself. One of the most wonderful things as a therapist is to see a rescuing codependent get in recovery and then see them start to have joy and smile and have some swagger to them and have some color. It's awesome. So, my friends who are rescuers, former rescuers in recovery for rescuing, you are your own monkey. And your life is your circus. I worked with a man many years ago, even back to when I was at an agency in 1988. And this fella came in, and he was very codependent, and he reminded me of Popeye the Sailor Man. He was full of rage, and his presenting problem was he was pretty sure he wanted to kill his wife. And I said, well, let's look at that, because I can't recommend that you would do that. And he would talk, and it would look like Popeye, and he just looked so full of rage. And what had happened was this fella was an orphan growing up, and he never was special, and he never had his own room, and he never was given enough love. So when he married a woman who was recently, within the last 2 years, her husband died, and she'd been married to him 35 years. So everything in their property, nothing was moved. She wasn't capable of grieving. So there were pictures of the dead fella sitting on the dresser in the bedroom, and all his clothes were in the closet. And this fella, we'll call him Mike. Mike wasn't allowed to move a thing. There was no room for Mike in this marriage. There was no room for Mike in the home, and that's why he picked her. He picked her because he didn't have a self. He didn't really think he deserved to be loved. And one day I drew a big circle on my whiteboard, and in the middle I put an X, and I said, that's self-actualization, where your marriage is about you, not in a selfish way. Your career is about you. It's a reflection of who you are and your sense of self. Your home is about you. Your car is about you. Your clothes are about you. Your friends are about you. But you're not in the least bit selfish you're healthy. And I said, Mike, here's the pen, show me where you are. And he put an X almost off the board, which was accurate. He didn't feel entitled to be the center of his own life because he never had been the center of his own life. He had always been, the orphan boy, cinder fella, I call fellas like this. So get at the center of your life and start having some joy and make your life meaningful and joyful and balanced and fully alive. Have a circus that's full of joy and full of happy monkeys that are about you. And then from an overflowing cup, you can bless the world and give to others. So that's what I had to say about rescuing. It's a big issue. So if you haven't joined our channel, we're almost up to 1,100 people that have joined our channel, and there's about over 100 a month that join. It's really exciting. And we're up to about 12,000 views a month and almost 100,000 minutes. So it's really, people all over the world are being touched by our message, and it's really cool. We're having fun, and we're reaching people, and that's what we're here to do. So, but it's called Family Tree Counseling. It's on YouTube. Also, if you haven't visited our website, we have tons of articles. We have blogs that we do every week. You can join our mailing list. I also have some books on abandonment issues and shame, and affair recovery and marital issues and counterdependency. The website is familytreecounseling.com. So thank you for watching the video today, and God bless.